Tonight is Tuesday, October 30th. You are watching Informant Central. Visit our website, icnews.online. I'm Will Zariski. Stay tuned. We've got a good show ahead.
A way to unsee what I've seen, the pain and the sadness, scene after scene. I feel backed in between a steep ravine and these crumbling walls on which I always seem to lean. The world thinks they know how this job should go. They can point all the fingers they want to, still never know. It's like I'm falling asleep and never waking from a dream. The cries of so many inside, why do I not scream? Problems inside, piled high, breaking down my doors, and I'm running from my problems cause I'm running towards yours. Starving for support, like an engine with no fuel, like I'm trying to take a breath and I'm down in a pool. Lights and sirens, camera action, cell phones in your face looking for a reaction. And there's such satisfaction when they become a distraction, like this is Hollywood and you're some freak show attraction.
This is Informant Central. I'm Will Zariski. Tonight's show is brought to you by J.J. Staten Homes. Want to go over some events. And the big news is President Donald Trump will be here in Fort Myers, Florida at the Hertz Arena tomorrow night, Halloween night, 7 p.m. Got to get your tickets while you can. Visit donaldjtrump.com. Starts at 7 p.m. Other events that we have here in the local Southwest Florida area. Environmental Service Business Expo, November 7th, 1:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. That's at 2295 Victoria Avenue, Fort Myers. Everything you want to know about Lake Okeechobee, that's happening in Sarasota. Thursday, November 15th, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., 6700 Clark Road. And don't forget our daughter Zaria, her CDH awareness fundraiser at Rusty's Raw Bar. That's coming up this Sunday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. in Cape Coral, Rusty's Raw Bar, for diaphragmatic hernia. Garrett Stewart of the Eco Preservation Project will be there. Sign of the times. A lot of things are happening right now. We've got, synagogues being shot, people being ran over in Venice, Florida. Just now, just heard that on ABC News 7 up there. Ran over on bicycles, flown to the hospital. We've got fake bombs being mailed out, and that continues. It's the time that we're living in, and it's a time that we need to be salt and light. And I'm not proud of a lot of things I've done in my past. But as I grow older and as I look at my newborn daughter, and I think how great life is and how much life that she has ahead. And, thinking about salt, there's been wars fought over salt. Salt was very valuable at one time. In the Roman times, salt was so valuable that soldiers were paid in salt. But salt is also an irritant, which is what we're going to do to the deep state tonight as we get into some of this information that the mainstream media, a lot of it, they're trying to cover it up. They're trying to downplay it. Myself and my staff, my wife, we've done a lot of research in finding these headlines so that you don't have to. We have to look at numerous news sources and investigate and verify everything. But this report comes from CBS 12 just yesterday. They say that the red tide still lingers in small amounts off Treasure Coast and the Palm Beaches. And that was data according to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. And the report says that they showed spotty readings from background to high concentrates in the Indian River County, which is my hometown over on the East Coast. And then there was visitors to Hobe Sound, Florida, which is just a little south of there on the East Coast. They indicated some light coughing that could have been caused by the red tide. So they're downplaying this ongoing problem that we have, and we're going to get into some more information. My wife had found this one. The University of Oklahoma has just released information about the blue-green algae. That's the cyanobacteria that was so big here in Florida. They found this algae in fresh waters and reaching new levels around the world. Again, this is a worldwide problem, but probably the worst right here in Florida. And Oklahoma professors Carl Hambright and Lee Krumholtz will lead a global research team to study one of the most common environmental problems, freshwater toxic cyanobacteria, the blue-green algae blooms, which threaten freshwater lakes and pose a substantial health risk to humans, pets, livestock, marine life. This group will address the fundamental interactions between the cyanobacteria and other bacteria co-occurring with the blooms. Helmbright and Krumholtz will address the harmful outbreaks of toxic cyanobacteria that have reached new levels in water bodies around the world. With these team members they're from Australia, Canada, China, France, Germany, Hungary, Israel, and New Zealand. They're going to assist in developing an enhanced understanding of interactions between cyanobacteria and associated bacteria. That's a $2 million project that they're working on. And how many years is that out before we get some of the results back from that? Just like my wife and myself did the red tide testing, where they took our nasal swab and our blood and urine samples. How many years was that going to go on? They told us 9 to 12 months they'd have results. And that's just a private study. Then we've got, the thing is, our officials got to know. They're either horribly misinformed by their entourage, or they got to know, because many scientists know the cause of this algae, the cyanobacteria, that has exacerbated the red tide and risking our health. As Governor Rick Scott has said, he's so concerned about the Floridians, the citizens here, our health. Yet all the money is being controlled and funneled to another government agency or a city municipal, and then they just turn around and use the majority of the money for marketing so that more people come here. Because as I reported on the last broadcast, the biggest mall in America will be built here in Florida. So they have an agenda, and it's all about greed. It's greed driven. Another article, WVTF reported yesterday, algae bloom persist in Lake Anna in Virginia. And Margaret Smigo, who is with the Virginia Department of Health, well, she said that there is something that is feeding the cyanobacteria and it's causing the bloom. She says something has changed. She quotes in here, higher rainfall means increased runoff, delivering the kind of phosphorus and nitrogen-enriched diet that the cyanobacteria love, and the warm climate as well. And, Chris and I, we've talked about this off camera about, now it's been cooler. The other morning it felt like it was 50 degrees, down here in Florida. It's really cold. And this is what would kill off some of the visible signs, because they want out of sight, out of mind when they're still putting adjuvants to cover this up. There's a big covering up, not only by the media, blacking out, not mentioning this, but also what they are physically doing to change our waters, our environment here in Southwest Florida. And then WGCU aired an episode of Changing Seas back in June last year, not this year. They aired this, and the water releases from Lake Okeechobee periodically create putrid mats of the blue-green algae. And scientists think, it says here that they think that water pollution is to blame. And if something isn't done about it, there could be irreparable damage to the environment, the local economy, and people's health. So, some of the scientists knew about this stuff a year in advance, even though we had a bad bloom back in 2016. 2018 is the worst on record. And my wife and I, being on that sailboat, we were there in the front lines. We saw it the first day it came into the Caloosahatchee. More of a positive note, because we've got phosphate mining up there. We've got big companies, big corporations, billion-dollar corporations. Well, this, again, another article I found by the Associated Press. Judge upholds Monsanto verdict, but cuts award to $78 million. The jury that found Monsanto purposely ignored warnings in evidence that Roundup, the glyphosate, causes cancer. CBS reported on that. Victory, Monsanto verdict upheld, Bayer stock crashes. Analysis estimate $800 billion in future losses. Also, Health Nut News reported on that. I mean, just last week, my wife and I saw a guy spraying that stuff right in the median, right with all the traffic coming by. And there was a gentleman named Sam. I put the link on my page where he confronted some Charlotte County workers for spraying the Roundup right over there, and how he's got some illnesses related to that. And then let's shift gears here. We're going to talk about what Reuters has reported just yesterday. U.S.-bound migrants enter Guatemala. Others clash at border. A new group, this is a new group of migrants bound for the United States, set off from El Salvador and crossed into Guatemala, and this happened Sunday, following thousands of other Central Americans fleeing poverty and violence who have taken similar journeys in recent weeks. And then yesterday, again, Associated Press reported over 5,000 troops expected on border. Troops arrive in Brownsville. Trump has said that he's determined to use every authority he has to stop immigrants from crossing the border illegally. And the conditions that these folks are putting their children in is unbelievable. The climate, the heat, the terrain. There's some 2,300 children that were traveling with the migrant caravan. And, Chris, you had some thoughts on that. And then I've got another snippet that I want to talk about after that. Chris is a former vet of the United States Navy.
Just a second here.
All right, he's also our producer. Working out.
Sorry, trying to multitask.
All right, you got sound there?
Yeah. So with this whole migrant infiltration, if you want to call it that, you've got a group of roughly 5,000 people who are making their way towards our border. And I've heard from both sides, they need to go back where they're from, and we need to let them into the country. Well, first of all, if they turn around and go back where they're from, it's problem solved. Second of all,
which they're not going to do.
It's problem solved, but it's also more problems for them, so they're not going to do it. Second of all, Mexico has already offered most of these people a place to stay. You know what I mean? They came right out and said, hey, don't go to America, stay here. But they continue. And then thirdly, even if they do make it to the United States, you're talking about, we've got about 200,000 homeless people in the United States, right? You're about to add another 5,000 to that.
Not only that,
where are we even going to put them?
Yeah, not only that, Chris, but some of these gang members understand that over in other countries, life is not as valuable to them as it is to us here.
And that's the thing is, sure, 60, 70% of it might be innocent women and children, but mixed in with that, there are some bad people mixed in with that.
Right.
Then you've got this newest batch that just came out of Honduras into Guatemala, and there's documented terrorists. I mean, like literally they were written down, like Honduras and Guatemala both went, yep, these people are ISIS. They're mixed in with that group. You've got folks that were gang members that are mixed into that group. They had a huge violent clash at their border that nobody's talking about. And everybody wants to jump on, why are we sending the military to the border? Well, I got some things to say about that too.
And that's constitutional to do.
Yeah, it's constitutional to do. Their primary purpose in life is to protect our border. And it was the same when I was in the military. That's numero uno is to protect our interests here and abroad. And I've heard some people throw around things like posse comitatus and stuff like that. And it's like, well, if you actually bothered to listen to the Army general who got up and spoke about the action that they're about to take, the 5,000 people that they're sending to the border, about 4,500 of them are not in combat roles. They're engineers. The engineers being sent down there to build camps so that we have some place to house these people. They're pilots. The pilots are being sent down there with their aircraft, helicopters and C-17s and everything else to be able to move the Border Patrol agents where they need to be rapidly so that these people don't get hurt. they're not coming across the border into San Diego. They're coming across the border in very rural, rough, harsh environments that if you're not prepared for that, you're gonna die.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? So if nothing else, the U.S. government is doing these folks a favor by sending the military to the border, because that's the only way we're going to be able to even try to help them. And the funny part is, our government has even gone so far as to say, yes, the folks that are eligible for asylum are going to be allowed to apply for asylum. We're going to give them a roof over their head in the form of a tent, but still, that's better than sleeping out under the stars in the middle of the scorching hot desert. We're going to give them all this stuff and take care of them while we figure out their what's the word I'm looking for? I just said it too. While we figure out whether or not they qualify for
The citizenship's over here.
well, not citizenship, but you know what I mean, running away from their problems. But then what do we do with the other 4,000 or 5,000 that are coming up? Now you're going to have to talk about 10,000 people. Now they're going to be in an environment where you've got deadly people. I mean, look, they're documented. Everybody was up in arms about the documentation. Well, here you've got people that are documented gang members and documented terrorists that are only a few thousand miles behind the people that are walking towards us right now.
Which reminds me of when back in President Jimmy Carter accepted all the Cubans here, that they were sending us people that their own country didn't want. All the degenerates they sent over here back in the 70s under Democratic President Jimmy Carter. And I kind of see a similar thing with, they're coming in such a flood over here. We don't know who's bad, who's, has good intentions. I have no problem with people coming to this country and doing it legally. But when you come here and you take advantage, you're here illegally, and you're giving the middle finger to America, that's just a slap in our face.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing is, they're marching north with their country's banners, which, okay, fair enough. They're proud of their country that they come from, but there's some of them that are also marching north with signs that say "Death to America" on it.
Right.
That's something to be concerned about. You know what I mean? Are most of them harmless and most of them honestly looking for aid? I'm sure they're coming from a really poor situation, where they're dealing with violence on an epic scale from all the gangs down there and everything. But on the same token, mixed in with them is a lot of what we call in the military-aged males. During World War II, we had Polish refugees come to the United States. And we took those folks, we brought them out to a military camp, we trained them up, and we sent them back home to fight the Nazis. We didn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't a social welfare program. It was, no, look, you want your country back, get to work. Because we're not going to do it for you if you're not willing to put forth the effort to do it for yourself. And a large portion, I wouldn't say the majority, but a large portion of those 5,000 people that are coming north are military age males with gang tattoos and everything else. Then you look at the way they went through, what was it? It wasn't Juarez. It was another city down there, where they gave them a whole bunch of food and a whole bunch of clothes and everything else, and they just threw it in the street. These people raised, you're just looking at the trash, it's tens of thousands of dollars worth of trash. And they took it and threw it in the street and left it there for the people that were kind enough to give it to them in the first place to clean it up. They had half-eaten meals and anything that any of the clothes that weren't high-end, they just threw away. And it's like, how desperate are you if you're throwing away perfectly good food and perfectly good clothes? Exactly. You can't be that desperate.
And
I'm sorry.
You'd be surprised how little you can survive without. If their country is so great, a lot of them say, why are they flooding us over here illegally?
Right.
Yeah.
You
well,
know?
I don't know if you know, I got this sent to me today. Trump says he will sign a new executive order banning birthright citizenship. So that just came out today, was sent to me. And
I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to give the floor back to you.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate it, Chris, our producer there, former veteran of the United States Navy. New study. We'll move on to something else here. New study again links fluoride to ADHD in children. This is from philipschneider.com. ADHD is one of the most common issues we hear about in children these days. And according to data a couple years ago, 2016, this is from the CDC, approximately 2.4 million children ages 6 to 11 have ADHD. And in the United States, that number intends to increase over time. This new study from the University of Toronto indicates that there is an association between levels of fluoride found in pregnant mothers and ADHD symptoms. And these children, once they become school age, from around 6 to 12 years old. And the study recruited researchers from a diverse range of institutes, including the University of Toronto, the National Institute of Public Health of Mexico, University of Michigan, Indiana University, and the University of Washington and Harvard School of Public Health. And then there's more studies linked prenatal fluoride exposure to neurological ailments. This is not the first time that exposure to fluoride studies have been linked to ADHD. A study in 2015 from the Journal of Environmental Health concluded that this is water fluoridation, artificial water fluoridation, and again in 1992 significantly, positively predicted, confirmed this 100% that is cause of ADHD. And a study done just last year examined the rates of urinary fluoride of pregnant women. This is in Mexico, and found that the more fluoride that they were exposed to, the lower intelligence of their children measured in IQ. Understand, sodium fluoride, they put it in the tap water, they put it in the toothpaste. This is being done by design, folks. Just like what they're doing to our water systems, and they're not cleaning it up. Fluoride's been something that's been used. It was first introduced in the Nazi concentration camps because it stopped the prisoners' will to resist, to escape in large quantities. And this, we're talking minuscule levels, but like erosion over a period of time. Then Apple finally shuts down security flaw used by phone cracking law enforcement. I also got the text message. Maybe if you got an iPhone, you got it too. They got 70 new emojis out today. iPhone. This is from Tech Dirt. Apple has succeeding in killing an exploit that allowed a third-party vendor to crack iPhones for investigators. Again, another article here my wife had found. A few months ago, Apple announced it was fixing the flaw that allowed products like Gray Key to bypass built-in security features to engage in brute force password guessing. Thomas Brewster of Forbes confirms the fix is finally in. Multiple sources familiar with the Gray Key tech tell Forbes the device can no longer break the passwords of any iPhone running on iOS 12 or above. On those devices, Gray Key can only do what's called a partial extraction. Sources from the forensic community said this means police using the tool can only draw encrypted files and some metadata such as file sizes and folder structures. Interesting information here by Apple from motherboard.com. Facing tomorrow's high-tech school surveillance. There's a school in Lockport, New York that will be monitoring the students by a sophisticated new surveillance system that scans the faces like they do over there in where is it? France, I think. Yeah, London. They have that technology there. Well, they're introducing this technology, and they're looking for matches to the school security database. The Lockport School District was awarded $4 million through Smart School Budget Bond Act, a New York State fund. The Orwellian dystopia of 1984 is here. The technology is here. They're implementing this in schools. This is a place you could read about that on Motherboard, Lockport, New York. That's where they're implementing this at. I remember back in 2011, I fought the Lee County School Board here for the palm scanners, which they didn't end up getting them, as far as I know so far. But Pinellas County had them because we don't know the cost on that, the maintenance that's going to cause. It's just very creepy stuff. Moving on, there was a national review back in August 30th of this year. Andrew Gillum would be a disaster as Florida governor. And it says here in the article, again, read that at National Review. He wants to abolish ICE, raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, pass single-payer health care, and increase taxes across the board. And Florida has been a long considered one of the most freest states in the union. In just 8 days, Florida will elect its next governor. I hope and pray that we make the right decision, especially with all that's going on with our water crisis, with the laws that we have, and of course being one of the freest states in the nation. It's going to get very interesting here, folks, going in the future. Then we have things go like reported by WESH2, shots fired at GOP office. This was in Volusia County, Florida. Police say this happened Sunday afternoon. I mean, we're hearing reports of shootings, not only here in Florida, but it was up in Pennsylvania. Some people were shot in the synagogue. And then found this out of Tampa Bay, abcactionnews.com. Excuse me. 3-year-old shot in the head during Florida road rage incident. That was in Port St. Lucie, Florida. A 3-year-old child is in critical condition after being shot during a road rage incident in Port St. Lucie. The police are saying the child was a passenger in a vehicle that was involved in a shooting that stemmed from a road rage incident approximately 2 a.m. What are they doing taking their child out at 2 a.m.? The child was airlifted to St. Mary's Hospital and is still in critical condition. The suspect vehicle is black. It's a newer model 4-door sedan. That's all we have to go by. The driver's possibly Hispanic or light-skinned black man. If you have any information on this, contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-273-8477. So we have, there was an airplane crash that just came in from Zero Hedge. Boeing jet crashes off Indonesia. All 189 aboard likely dead. And believe what is the worst plane crash in 3 years, a Boeing 737 MAX jet operated by Indonesia's troubled Lion Air carrier plunged into the Java Sea with 189 people aboard just minutes after takeoff. Pray for those folks' families. It's sad times that we're living in. That's about all I have for tonight, Chris, unless you've got something you want to discuss. All right. Join us Tuesdays and Thursdays. You know, we go live on those nights. We've been kind of toying with the idea if we're going to continue using the Facebook here or going on and doing YouTube or some other platforms. Our website is icnews.online. Of course, like the page here. You can subscribe to our other platforms, comment, click notifications here. Support us. Go to the website. We are set up with Patreon. Like, follow, comment. God bless you guys. We'll catch you next time on Will Zariski, icnews.online.
A way to unsee what I've seen, the pain and the sadness, scene after scene. I feel backed in between a steep ravine and these crumbling walls on which I always seem to lean. The world thinks they know how this job should go. They can point all the fingers they want to, still never know. It's like I'm falling asleep and never waking from a dream. The cries of so many inside, why do I not scream? Problems inside, piled high, breaking down my doors. And I'm running from my problems cause I'm running towards yours. Starving for support, like an engine with no fuel. Like I'm trying to take a breath and I'm down in a pool. Lights and sirens, camera action, cell phones in your face looking for a reaction. And there's such satisfaction when they become a distraction. Like this is Hollywood and yes, I'm free.